It all started on a quiet Sunday morning in Portland, Oregon. The sun had barely peeked over the horizon, painting the city skyline with a soft golden glow. Emily Carter, a 28-year-old elementary school teacher, was sipping her coffee on the porch of her small apartment. Her life had always been simple: work, home, and the occasional get-together with friends. But that particular morning, something unexpected happened that changed everything she thought she knew about life, kindness, and destiny. As Emily scrolled through her phone, she noticed a message from an unknown number. It read, "Hi Emily, I think I found something that belongs to you." Confused, she frowned. She hadn't lost anything recently, or at least she thought she hadn't. The message continued with a picture of an old leather-bound journal, one that looked eerily familiar. Emily's heart skipped a beat. That was her late mother's journal, the one she thought she had lost years ago when she moved out of her childhood home in Seattle. Trembling, she replied, asking who the sender was. A few minutes later, a response came. "My name's Daniel Hayes. I recently bought an old bookshelf from a thrift store in Seattle." The journal fell out from behind one of the drawers. "I opened it slightly to find a name, Emily Carter, so I wanted to return it." Emily couldn't believe it. Her mother's journal, the one filled with recipes, memories, and heartfelt letters, had somehow found its way back to her through a stranger. After a few messages back and forth, Daniel offered to drive to Portland the next day to return it in person. He said he was heading that way for work anyway. Emily agreed, though part of her was nervous. Meeting a stranger from out of town wasn't something she did often. The next day, the weather turned cloudy, with light rain misting the streets. Emily waited outside her favorite cafe, Maple and Brew. When Daniel arrived, she was taken aback, not by his appearance, but by the genuine warmth in his smile. He looked to be in his early 30s, wearing a navy coat and carrying a small paper bag with a journal inside. "You must be Emily," he said, his voice calm and friendly. "I think this belongs to you." Emily took the journal, her eyes glistening as she flipped through the pages. Her mother's handwriting brought back a flood of memories: Sunday dinners, bedtime stories, handwritten notes tucked into lunchboxes. "I can't believe you found this," she said softly. "Thank you so much." Daniel smiled. It felt wrong to throw it away. Something about it told me it meant a lot to someone. They sat together for a while, talking about life, family, and coincidences that didn't feel like coincidences. Emily learned that Daniel was a freelance photographer who often traveled for work. He'd been in Seattle for a project and had randomly stopped at that thrift shop because it reminded him of his grandmother. The conversation flowed naturally, and before they knew it, hours had passed. Daniel mentioned he was heading to the Oregon coast for a photo shoot, and Emily, intrigued by his stories, shared her love for painting sunsets. Before parting ways, Daniel handed her a small photo he had taken of a sunrise over Mount Rainier. "Keep this," he said. "It reminded me of hope. Maybe your mom's journal found its way back to remind you of that too." 4 days afterward, Emily couldn't stop thinking about the encounter. She began reading through the journal, rediscovering her mother's words, her thoughts on love, courage, and the importance of taking chances. One entry caught her attention. "If life ever surprises you, don't run from it. Sometimes, the best things come from the unexpected." Those words stayed with her. 2 weeks later, Emily decided to visit the coast where Daniel was shooting. She sent him a message, saying she wanted to thank him properly and show him one of her paintings inspired by his photograph. When she arrived, the sound of crashing waves filled the air. Daniel was there, camera in hand, capturing the sunset. When he saw her, his face lit up. "I was hoping you'd come," he said. They spent the evening walking along the beach, sharing stories about their families, their dreams, and their fears. It wasn't romantic, at least not in a conventional way, but there was something deeply comforting about their connection. It felt like two souls finding peace in each other's company. Over time, their friendship grew. They began collaborating. Daniel's photographs paired with Emily's paintings in a small art exhibit in Portland called Through Her Eyes. The show attracted attention for its authenticity and emotion. Visitors often remarked on how the work seemed to tell a story of rediscovery and healing. One day, months later, Emily found a small note tucked inside her mother's journal. It was one she had never noticed before. Her mother had written, "If this journal ever finds its way back to you, know that love has a strange way of returning when you need it most." Emily smiled through her tears. She realized that Daniel's kindness, the timing of their meeting, and the return of the journal were all part of something bigger. Something that reminded her that life surprises could be the most beautiful gifts of all. As the sun dipped behind the Oregon horizon that evening, Emily stood beside Daniel, watching the waves crash softly against the shore. "You know," she said with a smile, "maybe some surprises are meant to find us." Daniel looked at her, his eyes reflecting the golden light. "Maybe they are," he replied. And in that quiet moment, surrounded by the sound of the sea and the glow of the setting sun, Emily knew that sometimes, when life surprises you, it's simply destiny knocking at your door.